I just want to turn our eyes to this topic of it's been brought up of a UAP czar or a presidential advisor on UAP. I asked this question to Twitter, and I was kind of surprised by the results. I was not expecting these results. And I wonder, what do you see in this? Like, why is there such an uneven distribution here or an uneven candidacy in the mind of at least 1,000 people? Not to say that that's representative.
Well, I don't think it's entirely uneven. I mean, you have essentially, three people as primary candidates in roughly in proximity of 30% range. So, splitting a third of the vote. Some obvious deference to David Grusch there. But, I think all of them personally would probably make good candidates, and they probably have their different strengths and weaknesses. Elizondo was a senior advisor to ATIP and has experience in the investigation and the understanding of the intelligence apparatus and what's been going on there. And then you have David Grusch, who did his own investigation and uncovered things and talked to numerous whistleblowers. And then you have Karl Nell, who clearly knows a thing or two and has zero doubt that what we're dealing with here is a non-human intelligence. So I think any one of those candidates would be fantastic, and they probably all bring their own strengths and weaknesses to the potential position. But, I don't have a personal opinion on any particular person, but I definitely want whoever that person is to be a bona fide transparency disclosure advocate, whoever that may be.
You probably see two camps around folks who are former intelligence people or whatever around how to try to move this forward. One camp is saying, keep the rotten food in the fridge, to use Lue Elizondo's analogy. Let's just start putting up new systems like the Gremlin system that Arrow's come up with, and say that we've just now started seeing this stuff and we don't know what it is. And you sort of start the narrative from now moving forward, and you just don't deal with the past, right? So that's like one camp. The other camp is like, no, we need to talk about retrievals. We need to talk about the reverse engineering. We need to sort of go as close to full open kimono without, again, touching on our national security strategic asset pieces. So you could probably call that the like Grusch Nell wing. And then the Mellon wing is maybe more the something's weird. We have to sort of the incrementalist approach. I think part of the challenge for us who are trying to advocate for greater disclosure around this is that there is not agreement, particularly from those closest to the issue, around how we need to move forward. And then that also creates opportunity for the co-opt issue to then, again, sow discord. Generally, the North Star is the same across that sort of spectrum of how we should approach it. It's just a matter of degree of how honest we want to be about the past, which in my view is like the necessary thing in order to sort of be able to really move forward. There has to be some form of truth and reconciliation process here. I don't know what we don't know what we don't know. So it's a complex issue, but I think because there's sort of this wide spectrum of how we should deal with it as from an ideological perspective, that creates actually opportunity to sort of divide people across these two sort of lanes.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that Lester was making there between the two camps. But I think, inside the pro-disclosure transparency camp, he's absolutely right that there is disagreement there in terms of sort of how to proceed and how to achieve the end result. But I think the great debate is also what that end result should look like in terms of, like he referenced the past, how much information should actually be revealed to them. Not just referring to like real national security issues in terms of potential, weapons platforms or technology that have been developed as a result of crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. But I'm talking about the criminality and some of the things that have happened over the course of the last 80 years, particularly potentially, people that have been involved that have potentially big names, in this cover up and in furtherance of the cover up. And, and also some of the things that have been alluded to in Jake Barber's discussion with, Ross Coulthart. He gets into some pretty deep things there, especially if you watch the full 2 hours and 40 minutes of the full, interview that he did. Gets into some pretty deep stuff there that, rings true to a lot of conversations that I've had and things that you read and part of the lore. And those are things that aren't just damaging to certain people and reputations, but would rock the foundation of our republic and our constitution and our government institutions, and really would cause some very serious soul searching on amongst the American populace about the government in which they believed that they lived in. It's been revealed to them that the country that they've been living in isn't really where they are, that there's, some very nefarious things going on for very unclear purposes. So, to what level do we go in revealing the truth? I think that's at the heart of it.
Right. Yeah. I've been asking this question for a while now, which is, we all want disclosure, but no one likes to talk much about what is this disclosure of? What is the disclosure or the set of disclosures? I mean, if it's something so tremendously difficult and with illegalities involved and criminality or even hostile intent by the visitation itself or their act, it becomes a different matter.
The declassification of the JFK files might create some potential freedom of movement for Harold Malmgren, who was the presidential advisor to several presidents, who has become much more out in the open in the last, let's say, 6-8 months about his personal experience at the level of the office of the president over multiple administrations around this subject. And he may feel more inclined to speak more candidly with basically President Trump saying that it's time to talk about all the aspects of the JFK assassination. So if there is a nexus, I'd be curious to see Harold Malmgren's statements, if any, in the wake of that disclosure.